Everybody, welcome to the Push to Shout podcast. This is episode 170 something, and we are happy to be back after the holiday break. We hope that you had a Merry Christmas or a Happy Kwanzaa or whatever you celebrate with you and yours.
Christmas is back. Did you hear?
Merry Christmas is back. Push to Shout podcast. This is
We're allowed
to say that again.
You can say it now.
I heard about that. I did hear that that was legalized. That was part of that new ballot push, was to legalize Christmas.
That's right.
That's what Snoop was singing about all that time, I think. When that's what he wanted legalized. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We have some serious matters to discuss. Serious matters like the business practices of our favorite companies, the latest shows we've seen on Netflix, and the newest Star Wars film.
All right. Those are the three topics we're going to be discussing.
No, we could talk about anything. But I did want to talk about Star Wars if you'd seen it.
I have seen Star Wars, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I liked it.
I liked it too. It was pretty good.
All right, good talk.
All right.
On to my new obsession, which I just have to get out of the way, and it's terrible.
Okay.
And it's consumed my life in a really bad way.
I know what this is. It's anime.
It is. It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
The meme show.
It's the meme show. It's the show with all the memes and the roundabout and the funny bits and Zewirldo. And that's kind of what the show is, and it's really fucking entertaining. It's really well done. I couldn't recommend it enough. It's genuinely funny and interesting. So JoJo's is great, and I just have to mention it because it's accounted for so much of my fucking time, even though I have nothing to say. It's kind of like Dragon Ball, but a bunch of burly, over-the-top men beating the shit out of each other. That's the show.
I mean, that's a pretty good sell.
It is. It's a good show. Watch it, or don't.
Maybe one day. Maybe.
But what about you? I'm sure you've been doing more interesting things than throwing your life over the Pacific into a black hole.
Interesting things. I don't know if I would describe it as that. I did zero preparation before starting this podcast to try to remember, like, what have I watched, what have I played. So besides Star Wars, I've got nothing. No, I've got, I guess, some stuff maybe. I played Doki Doki Panic. Not Doki Doki Panic. That's a different game. Doki Doki Literature Club.
Okay, I heard about this. I heard that it's not what you expect, and then
I heard that
weird.
too.
Is that
you launch the game up? It's free, by the way.
Okay.
You launch the game up, and it makes you go through various warnings about content and whatnot, which kind of gives away the surprise. But it presents itself as your very standard visual novel of the Japanese variety, where cute girls are in high school and they all fall in love with you. And it pretty rapidly, after maybe 30 or 45 minutes of playing, it starts to get a little bit dark, where it's like, okay, some of these girls have some issues. And then it kind of goes, it takes a very hard turn into, I would compare it to like Undertale, like a darker Undertale. Like not to spoil too much, but the flower character from Undertale, that kind of thing is in this game. And it goes some places, and it's quite short.
Doki Doki Literature Club?
Yeah, I mean, I do recommend it. It's fun. It's kind of fun and interesting and neat.
What's the
and
gameplay
not too
like?
long and free. It's not. There's no gameplay.
Oh.
It's a visual novel.
Oh.
You read text on the screen. I mean, there's choices that you make and stuff, and they do affect stuff. But like,
okay,
it's not a game. It's a visual novel. But I did enjoy it, even as someone who's not. I mean, I guess I'm familiar enough with the visual novel tropes without having played them, that I kind of got it, because like it's very, it is a critique of the genre in many ways, or at least a subversion of it. And so you have to at least be familiar with it, with that kind of game. But I've never really played one, so I don't know. I just absorbed enough on the internet to know, okay, this is what these games are all about, and this seems like a very standard one of those until it doesn't. And it's fun. It's neat. Undertale's better. Undertale does a very similar thing better, and you get more out of it. But this one's free.
I mean, if it's free,
and it's fun.
I'll try it. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's just neat. And yeah, the game journalists have some interesting opinions about it. Other than that, I've been playing a little bit of VR. I did do the VR chat stuff. Is there something wrong?
Nah, just 1 second.
You have a concerned look on your face. Oh my god, he just left. He just left me on my own. That's awful. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to carry this podcast on my own.
Just my roommate, sorry.
Nope, can't hear you.
Just my roommate, sorry.
Okay, well, I did really well without you. And you missed it. I talked all about VR chat and you missed it. So
I did want to talk about VR
on,
chat. Have you already moved on?
No, I mean, I don't have that much to say about it really, but it's kind of neat. It's fun and stupid.
I've been playing some of it, and I've been doing it for a little bit out in like a more open space, and then a little bit in like a tight area where basically all I can do is move my arms around. It reminds me of like the Habbo Hotel era of raids and just complete nonsense, or even a little bit of the early Xbox Live days back when everybody was on the mic and everybody was just saying every thought that comes to mind, and there was no filter whatsoever.
It exposes the insanity of the internet in a way that a lot of video games, or not many video games, have in the last like 5 or 10 years, because like you said, nobody gets on voice chat. Yeah, and you don't get these weird games like the age of Gmod is gone.
Everybody's
so you don't get
opted out by default, and
you just don't get that insanity anymore. But VR chat just it just does not give a fuck and just goes fucking wild with it.
It really does just let the insanity completely run wild. Yeah, especially when you go on servers with the crayons that people can draw with in the air.
Yes. Yeah. There's all sorts of things that people can do in that game that are.
Would you believe?
It's like, why would they let you do this?
Would you believe that people will draw some pretty nasty things when given the opportunity?
It's not too surprising. I encountered some people who had gotten themselves some avatars that somehow like take over your screen and stuff.
There's some weird like game-breaking avatars.
Yeah, I guess that game, like the impression I get of that game is like it is super open-ended as far as like the amount of customization you can do, to the point where you can actively disrupt other people's experience like to an extreme degree. And I'm actually surprised I don't see it very often. But like, if you want to fuck up people's time in that game, you can just make an avatar that blacks out everyone's screen or does whatever. Like there's one that like does the Dark Souls "you died" thing, like it forces that on your screen and plays the noise.
Really, on
and
other
stuff like that.
Screens?
Yes, on everyone in like the vicinity. And then there was one that like it makes everything look like Doom, like the original Doom. Like it'll give you the gun and the UI of Doom, and then if you're near enough to the person, it has like Doom level 1. It's actually insane. I don't know how it works, because like when you're outside of their little vicinity, you just see everything like normal. But right when you enter their vicinity, it suddenly your entire surroundings turns into a Doom level.
That's weird.
Where like you can see further out from the vicinity that creates its boundaries. It's weird. Like it has a skybox and everything. It's really bizarre. It's completely insane. I mean, it's awesome. It's just completely insane what people can do.
I found this
that's wild.
Busted Dragon Ball Z skin that somebody put on like an avatar collection server, and it would break your own physics, so that whenever you would try to like walk into an object or get to an elevated surface like stairs or like a table, then you would just spiral out into outer space. You would just physically shoot up into the air. Other people could see you, and then you would fall down, and you could fall anywhere you wanted, basically. And then he had these emotes, and it was the most obnoxious thing. He has this emote that makes a giant DBZ energy ball that is like as large as the entire fucking level and is super bright and looks like a sun and covers up everything. and anyone can just pick this model up and run around with it. It's just
Yeah,
super.
I love the viral
game.
nature of it too, where like you join a room and it has like avatars that you could just become. It's like, hey, try this one out. And so like you have like this like that's like where the raid element comes in. Is like everyone goes to McDonald's and becomes Ronald McDonald, and then everyone moves to another server because you can create these portals that everyone goes through. Like the game is just so unintentionally like I don't know. Some of it's intentional obviously, but like the way that the game took off and the way that people are playing with it is like it has this very experimental and natural feel to it, where it's like this is just an organic thing that nobody can control at all. It's just completely out of control.
Exactly.
And
it's structured
it's awesome
in the right way to make it exciting and not as like hokey as something like Second Life or Alt Space VR. I went into that Alt Space VR thing one time. I wanted to see what it was all about. It was like a precursor to VR chat. It's a separate thing. And the one night that I went on there was like an actual staff member from Alt Space VR standing behind like an actual podium.
I know what Alt Space is now.
And was like, "Hello, sir. Let me explain what Alt Space is all about."
That's what
you could pick from these like generic pre-made avatars, and I was just running around, and I wanted to walk behind the podium, and they block it off so you can't get behind their little podium while they talk. It's an actual employee of the company is there doing this. So I walk up as close as I can with my character, and then I physically step behind the podium. And then they start freaking out. They're like, "Sir, you need to remove yourself from behind the podium." They got all worked up that I was behind their podium while they were trying to like educate people about their dumb little game. And that's the problem, is that it is a dumb little game because all you can do is go into these very safe little chat rooms, and there's a moderator present, and it's all safe, and you're all using these little avatars that are all on the server, and it's a totally different, it's like the Wild West on VR chat.
Yeah. There was the early days of VR. Now it's kind of caught on to a point where things like VR chat can happen, even though part of the reason VR chat's so huge is because you don't need VR to play it. But like,
huge part of
but in general, it does seem like a lot more people have headsets now than they did like 4 months ago. Like I think the holiday season did really well for headsets or something.
The Oculus coming down too.
Yeah, the Oculus got straight up cheap. And the early days of VR before there were a lot of people on it, and like all these games were trying to like guide people into like, okay, I know VR is a weird experience, and here's how the game works because nobody understands this and nobody's done anything like this. So like there were a few games where I went into them, like free games or something like that, where I was just trying it out, and I went in, and there was like half the time there would be obviously a developer in there because they're being extremely educational, you know. They're like, yeah, here's what you do, and they're like super enthusiastic about it. And it's like nobody's this enthusiastic about this weird ass game. Like this is obviously a developer sitting in here like, yeah, and so you pull up the menu and and do this, and then you can do this, and it's like, all right, great, dude. And it's like, just leave me alone. I just want to fuck around with VR, but like they're trying to like coddle you. I'm glad it's kind of taking off. VR chat's some wild things. Someone said so it's like dreams. So you go in portals and see creations, and I guess it is like that, but it's very multiplayer focused, obviously. And so like you create a portal that everyone around you can go through if they want to. So like you end up just kind of like moving along with like if you're just going in alone, you're probably gonna find yourself like getting with a group of people who are going through these portals and just going to these random worlds and stuff and showing crap off that they've found, and like it's this wild organic thing that's really crazy. VR's crazy. VR's weird. I really like it. There was something else that I did in VR. Oh yeah, the co-op Onward is really neat, actually.
Is that new, or has that always been there? Okay.
No, it used to just be, player versus player multiplayer, but now it's like you can go with like 3 other people, and it just puts a bunch of AI on a map basically, and and you just clear the map of AI. So it's like really, really simplistic, but it's fun because you do a lot more shooting than you do in like the competitive stuff, where like the competitive stuff is like super slow and careful, and then you get shot out of nowhere. But with the co-op, you actually get to shoot guns and have fun with it in a way that you really don't in competitive multiplayer. So
That sounds cool.
yeah, we need to check that out because it's a lot of fun. What else have I played? Flight sims, DCS, still doing that. I don't know. I'm sure I've done something, but I can't think of it. So I guess that's it for me now. And as far as watching stuff, I haven't watched all that much stuff that I can think of either. But Grand Tour. Were you ever a Top Gear person?
Nope.
Well, I liked Top Gear, and then they had the whole drama with the hosts leaving and all that stuff. And Amazon got the hosts and said, "All right, well, we're going to make our own Top Gear, and we're going to call it Grand Tour, and it's going to be a very similar show, but different enough to be legally safe." And the first season was kind of disastrous, in my opinion. A lot of people liked it apparently, but like I thought it was really stilted, and like they were obviously just not sure how to go about making this show that they were doing. And they had like a huge budget, but it didn't feel like they earned the huge budget because it still felt like this weird little project. And so they've had the second season airing for a while on Amazon Prime, and I wasn't really interested in it because I never even got all the way through season 1. But holy shit, I started watching season 2 with my parents, and we were like, "Oh my god, this is just like Top Gear!" Like they've totally found their comfort zone and have started making a really good show. So Grand Tour, I think it's Grand Tour, World Tour, season 2. It was on Netflix, Amazon Prime, not Amazon Netflix. Check it out; it's pretty good.
I've been playing more Persona 3, trying to finish it. I'm on the very last.
You're on the
boss.
final boss. Yeah.
Yeah, but it turns out it's like 14 phases and takes like an hour to finish if you're ready, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was like level 70, which is too low. So I'm going back and grinding more now, and I just kind of want it to be over. But I'm very
Think
close.
of how satisfying it'll be when you finally do it, though.
I know. But I kind of was planning on playing Nocturne after all of this, but I don't think I have it in me anymore. I had enough of this turn-based shit, to be honest. I can't do it anymore.
JRPGs just maybe aren't all that good.
Well, they are, but I've played like 400 hours of them in a year. Like,
have you played any more Fallout 4 VR? Sorry
Yeah.
to suddenly change the subject.
Yeah, I have.
I just remembered I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah,
Has it
I put like 10 hours
remained
in it so
fun?
far. It has. It's just too intense to actually play like a regular Bethesda RPG like I normally would. Like, normally a game like that I could play, not that I've really played one in a while, but a 4 or 5 hour session wouldn't be unheard of. If you really get into it, you can play that long. But for VR, you really can't do that, and it's just stressful on a basic level. Like, there are these bits where a rad scorpion can just emerge from the earth right in front of you, just pop out of the ground. And normally in game, you think nothing of that because it's just like this dopey little model rising out of the dirt. But in VR, it actually looks like it's huge, first of all, as large as you, and it's bursting out of the ground, and it's right there, and its stinger is right in your face. Or a ghoul will do this leaping animation at you, and his hands are like clawing into your face, and it's right there. You really can't. There's, well, I don't know you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there's been some negativity around the Fallout 4 VR.
There's some stupid things.
Specifically, just the jankiness of it, which it seems like most of the jankiness is where it could be basically brushed off as like, no, this is just Fallout 4. Like, you should have known this going in because Fallout 4 is a janky as hell game. So, but it makes it worse when you're in VR because like you're so much more immersed in it, and then when the jank happens, it's like really, really off-putting. But apparently, the day one of that game, it was defaulting the resolution to your monitor resolution, which is lower than the headset resolution. And so it was like really blurry for people. And they released like a day 2 patch to fix it. But it was like this really, really fundamental mistake that never should have been made, where people were like, this is blurrier than it should be, and then they're like, oh shit, we made a mistake, and they had to patch the game on day 2. And then they haven't patched it since to fix all the other bugs that people are having. But
the most obnoxious of all is that all the scopes are a perfectly opaque texture.
Yeah, that sucks.
All the sniper rifles, which would be kind of cool to use in VR.
Yeah.
Like, of all the things that I wanted to do, because there are some very simple things. Like, I was sneaking up on this guy, this raider at a trailer at night, and he was sort of pacing around the thing. And so I hid behind one of the corners, and I leveled my pistol while I was sneaking. And then as soon as he rounded the corner, just popped straight to the head. That was so satisfying. So there are basically mechanically satisfying things like that. But then, on the other hand, you have just this weird shit that completely takes you out of it. I don't know. It's
still a Bethesda game.
It is. Yeah. It's not finished. Like, one of the things... So that moment made me think, oh yeah, I also want to... I want to scout out the wasteland and perch up on a hill and then maybe look down with a sniper and pop a shot or two off. And I raise my gun to my eye, and I see this black circle in the scope. And I laughed out loud. Because it's just like, of course, this is how it works in a Bethesda game. I mean, that's one of the most obnoxious problems in the whole game, to be honest. But there's other little things. I don't mind, though, that it's not a manual action reload. I'm perfectly okay with the automatic reload. I kind of like it. The shooting mechanics itself are more like arcadey in a way. They're abstract, and it's more about the RPG than the super hot
I think it would also be, considering how frustrating Onward is to reload stuff, or like learn how to reload stuff when it's real weapons, where you kind of already know basically how they're reloaded, and still like, I don't understand what's going on here. Fallout 4 has so many bizarre weapons that like it would probably be really frustrating to try to like learn the reload of each crazy weapon that comes up. So yeah, I don't think that would bother me either. And I've played some VR games where it's like you just lower your weapon to reload, or they come up with clever little ways to simulate reloading, I guess, that it never bothers me or anything. But although Onward is really cool, like actually taking the clip out, like you unload a pistol, it's empty, the little slide is back on the pistol, and you press the grip button, or not the grip button, but the touchpad, and the magazine just falls out, and you grab another one and you just slip it back in, and it's so satisfying to do stuff like that. And you pull the slide back to load it and all that stuff. Like it's really, really satisfying, but not necessary for a game like Fallout. I agree.
One of the things that really holds it back is it being on Vive. I really want a thumbstick.
Yeah.
The Vive needs some kind of thumbstick controls. You just need it for video games. You just need it.
Yeah, I've been telling people to get Oculus when they've been considering VR. I've been like, get Oculus. The only problem with Oculus is that with like now you can get a bundle for pretty cheap with 2 trackers, and apparently you really need 3 to get like a Vive level experience with it. But still, like it just seems like the controllers are better, the headset's lighter, which is nice, and like significantly lighter. And I don't know. I think the tracking's probably good enough, especially if you're willing to get a third thing. But there are some drawbacks that I didn't realize with Oculus. Like, I think the sensors have to be directly plugged into your computer, which is pretty bad. Yeah, that takes up a lot of USB ports and stuff. So I know someone who they tried to set up their Oculus, and they set it up and it works, but they couldn't get the sensor far away enough because they don't have a long enough cord to actually like do a room scale style thing. So they have both sensors facing in the same direction, so they can't like turn all the way around or lose tracking, stuff like that. It's like, okay, so Vive's still probably the premium experience, but God, I wish I had some Oculus controllers that I could use with it, because they do seem way better in like a lot of ways.
Yeah, walking around an entire Bethesda length RPG with like trackpad controls is less than ideal.
Yeah. But, I've been doing that with VR chat and Onward, and I don't know. It's not like the worst. It's just I really my bigger problem with the Vive controllers is they're kind of bulky. They don't they don't feel great, especially if you're like having to simulate holding something. Like if you're trying to simulate holding a gun, the controller doesn't do that great of a job of it, and it just doesn't feel natural all the time. And I've heard the Oculus controllers feel a lot better for stuff like that. So
I'd buy that. It feels more like a remote control than a gun.
yeah, like it feels like a controller. Like it's a control.
Yeah.
It's not just something that you hold. Like the Oculus looks way more natural feeling. And so like and like in VR chat or something, or even in Onward, like you try to point something, you try to point a pistol, or you try to point your hand in a direction. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm always like 30 degrees too high. Like it doesn't feel like I'm pointing that high up that I am in game. So it's just, and maybe that part of that's like a game developer needs to account for that or something, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel quite right. But still, pretty cool.
Space Pirate Simulator has settings for that where you can adjust the pointing angle of the gun. So it is something that's calibrated on a software level for sure.
Yeah.
Because I know Super Hot, it always felt very natural, and there were other games where it straight up didn't. So that makes sense.
I still need to try Super Hot.
You really do. I think it's probably the best gameplay of a straight up VR room scale game.
Yeah, I believe it. I'll get around to that one day, eventually.
I bought Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I don't know what compelled me to after all these damn JRPGs. Okay.
Well, that's a very different kind of JRPG.
It is, and it's not turn-based combat, which is, more up my alley right now. And I've heard about how many tutorials this game allegedly has. I started it, and immediately I get it. It is really, really over the top. It is so heavily tutorialized that it feels like every 30 seconds I'm getting stopped with some text prompt or freeze frame explaining different pieces of the HUD or where you need to go right now, and all the explanations for the different like conditions and combat, they're all like 4 to 5 lines long each, and then they like recap it. It's so overwrought with description and explanation, and I don't know if it's supposed to get better. It's kind of just comical at this point. Whenever it starts explaining something to me, I don't even know how to take it. It's just, it feels like a mountain that just keeps growing and growing. I mean, I get it all.
It's got to end at some point, right?
Surely, but it doesn't show any signs of stopping. I haven't been playing.
At some point, you've learned how to play the game.
But it's pretty cool. I really haven't been playing it that long, and the first game I was kind of into, but I got kind of bored of the gameplay. I played it on the 3DS for a little while. It was fine. But this one obviously benefits from being like a Switch game. It looks and sounds fantastic, which is a step up over like a ravioli quality 3DS screen. So it's just a better experience on a presentation level. And so I don't know, that matters for a game that you're going to be playing for a long time.
I went back and I looked at my Steam profile, like, all right, what have I played? And I forgot I've played a few multiplayer games that are worth talking about. Well, one not worth talking about, which is Rainbow Six Siege, which is the same as it's always been. But Sub Rosa, have you heard of that one?
The name sounds familiar.
I might have actually talked about it before, but Sub Rosa is like, it's this, it's a multiplayer game with 3 teams, and you're on a map, and you each represent like a company, and you buy guns, and you have something to like trade with one of the other teams, and the other teams have stuff to trade with the other team. You know, like the 3 teams kind of interact in different ways each round. Like you have a different objective basically that involves another team, and so you sit out and you do deals with the other teams, and almost inevitably the deals go wrong, and you shoot each other, and you get into a shootout or a car chase or something like that. And the rounds, it's permadeath and that kind of thing. It's a bizarre game that I don't think you could play with strangers and have very much fun with. But I was playing with like a group of like streamers and stuff. Like Kraken he has all these streamers and stuff that he plays with, and I got involved with them and started playing with them. So it was like a dozen people or so, and it was kind of a blast. And it's like partly physics based. Like you can trip over stuff, and or if you get shot like in the leg, you'll fall over, but you can still shoot your gun, but you're like on the ground, like struggling and stuff. And so you just get all these ridiculous situations and stuff, and it is one of those games that's like chaos, but in a fun way, and it makes just enough sense. The chaos makes just enough sense to have like a story to it, you know, like each round has a little bit of a story. Yeah, it's not just complete like, no, you never get into the situation where it's just like you see the other group and it's just a gunfight or something. You always have this interaction where like you both have briefcases, and one of the briefcases has a disc and the other one has money, and you're trying to trade them, but they're like, no, you drop yours on the ground and you step back and we'll grab it and then we'll drop ours on the ground. And it's like, well, no, that's not fair. And everyone's pointing guns at each other and stuff, and you can have like 2 pistols, or you can have like an assault rifle or 2 assault rifles or whatever, and so everyone's pointing guns and like looking back and forth at each other, and then the other group will show up, and so now you've got like a Mexican standoff situation going on. It's just really, really ridiculous. So I like that a lot. I just wish you need a big group of people to play it with who are all like into it, because I feel like if you play with strangers, I know that people do play with strangers in that game. Like there are other servers that are active that I don't think are just groups of friends. So I guess people play that game, but like it feels like something you really need an organized group of people to play with. But the other one, probably a similar situation. I don't know how fun it would be to play with strangers, but it's one of these games where I thought it was going to be trash. It looks like trash, and it is trash, but it plays so much fun. Like it's such a fun game that it ends up being really lovable. It's a port of the old Unity game, like SCP. You know the SCP stuff where it's like horror stuff. SCP, there was a game that someone made in Unity where like I guess it was like a single player thing where like you try to escape this facility and the monsters are trying to get you, and it's just like a horror game, but it's like randomly generated and janky, and
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They ported it to multiplayer, and
really?
there you spawn in, and I was playing again with like maybe 10 or a dozen people. You spawn in, and you're either a prisoner or a scientist or a monster, and then there's 2 other groups that they either spawn in at the beginning, or when someone dies they turn into one of these groups. There's like a military organization that's trying to save the scientists but doesn't care about the prisoners, and there's a military organization trying to save the prisoners and doesn't care about the scientists. So like you get these conflicts going on, and while the monsters are just like roaming the facility trying to kill you. And like one of the monsters, and I know that this is the same for the single player, like it's the same mechanic, it's just a human controlling it instead of an AI. When you're looking at it, it can't move, but when you look away, it can. So now it's a human controlled monster, and you see it, and it's standing still, and you can talk to it. They can't talk back, but you can like talk to it and be like, now you stay right there. But then like the lights flicker every like 5 or 10 seconds, and it can like move a little bit, and then it comes back on, and so it's like,
that's cool.
It's really goofy and fun, and actually legitimately kind of terrifying, because like you'll be running around with your friends, and it's easy. It's ridiculously easy to get separated because it's like really dark. There's not a huge line of sight. There's tons of branching paths and stuff, and you'll just be like, oh, what's in this room? I'm going to go see if there's something to pick up in this room or something like that. You'll turn around and you'll be like, where'd my friend go? And meanwhile, they've turned around and been like, where'd my friend go? And you get lost like really easily, or the monster just gets between you and you run in separate directions, and it's like, shit, now I'm on my own. It was, I streamed it, and it was a lot of fun. It was really goofy, but I had this issue where I couldn't stop moving back and to the right. It was like, you know, when you have like a controller plugged in and it's making an input, it felt like that, but I didn't have anything plugged in, and I reinstalled the game and everything, and it just would not fix itself. So I was moving around constantly because I couldn't stand still. I had to either move, and then I had to move in a certain direction, and I couldn't move like straight back or straight forward. So I was having to like GoldenEye 64 around the whole thing where I was like running diagonally. But it is really, it was really neat. And actually it was like a surprisingly good, for being this like really janky looking port of a single player game that looks like it was made by like one person. it's really well made in almost every aspect. And it has some like features in it that I think are really clever. Like there's one room in the entire facility that has an intercom, and you can talk across the entire facility, no matter like who you are, except I guess the monsters can't. But like every once in a while, someone will find that intercom, and you'll just hear them go over the intercom and say whatever they want. And like the military will come in, and he's like, you know, if you're the military that's going to save the scientists, you can just kill the prisoners. So they'll go to the intercom and they'll just be like, "All right, prisoners, I'm coming for you," or something like that. And everyone hears it, and it's just really goofy and funny. And I had a blast with it. It makes me miss playing like. Did you ever play? I always forget the name of this game, and I've done it on this podcast, and I can't remember if you played it or not. I think you did. The game where one person's invisible and everyone else is trying to like hunt them down.
Oh God, it's not Intruder. It's
The Hunted or something like that.
That's right. I know what you're talking about. Like that Half-Life 1 mod where one person's invisible and like stalks and
yeah, it's a Half-Life 2 mod. I don't think it was ever a Half-Life 1 mod, but yeah, he's like mostly invisible. There's a little bit of a shimmer, but he can only use a knife and some grenades, and you have people trying to hunt him down with guns, and it's no, I cannot fucking remember the name of it, but yeah, it reminded me of that a lot because it's like the idea that you're being hunted by this monster and stuff, and like interacting with other people and really fun. The Hidden, thank you. It is The Hidden. I wonder if that game's still active because I'd love to go back and play that again. It is so much fun. I've always been surprised that like no larger development team has actually just made a full game out of it, but I don't know. But I guess they kind of tried with like what was that? There's been a couple games like the Dead by Daylight and the Friday the 13th thing and the Evolve or whatever, but I feel like they all just fuck it up and they don't really make it.
Asymmetrical multiplayer is hard.
Yeah, asymmetrical multiplayer, yeah, and it's very difficult. But like The Hidden, I feel like The Hidden wasn't like designed with very much balance in mind. Like sometimes you were just at a huge disadvantage, or sometimes you weren't. But it was so much fun because it's just this intense situation that you're put in, and like you don't really care about the balance of the game because it's just fun.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like that's what people get wrong with a lot of those games is like they make it too much of a video game when really it should just be goofy fun. I guess that's harder to do these days because everyone's expecting either like a super competitive experience or a really they're expecting like progression and stuff like that. You can't just join a server and play a game anymore. But yeah, I had fun with those games. I hope to play more of them soon. I also want to play like these Pirates games are starting to come out. There was one in particular
like the Rare one come out
soon. I think there's already a beta of it. There's an active beta like where you have to get an invite or something like that. But that one comes out, I think, like spring, sometime, Q1, whatever. There's one that's in beta right now that I've been kind of wanting to try, or early access or whatever it is. I think it's called Black Wake, but it looks like kind of the same thing with a less goofy art style, but still really goofy looking, like lots of crazy physics and stuff going on. But like, it looks like you can ram each other's ships and stuff like that. Like it's very, from what I've seen, it seems like it's very like physics oriented and stuff, and looks like just a lot of goofy fun.
I want a good version of that crappy Gmod game.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I want. Is like I want it to work, and I want it to be chaos, like we're talking about, but like actually not too janky, to actually work to some competent degree. I don't know if either one of those games are quite to that point, but I'm glad they're being made. I'm glad they're being worked on. CFD's March 20th. So
Black Wake looks really good.
Yeah, I had a friend recommend it to me today. He texted me and he was like, "This is what I've been playing," and I was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that really," and I watched like a video of it real quick. I kind of want to just download it and try it out, so maybe I will pretty soon. But yeah.
I have 2 games from 2017 that I still have to actually play for longer than 30 seconds that I paid full price for. Prey and Civ 6. I got both of them and like never touched them.
Civ 6 is like $12 on Humble Bundle right now. Like you subscribe for $12.
Very nice. Very good thinking.
Yeah, I might do that. But
Yeah, I would like to play multiplayer that at some time. The problem is, with the previous games, I know that they added some kind of mode to try to fix it in this one. There's like an even more effectively truncated multiplayer setting. But
Yeah.
it used to be in Civ 5 that if you were to play multiplayer, there's like no hope of you ever finishing that game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'll probably get to like the end of the ancient era because you have to wait for people to take their turns. It just takes so long. Nobody has the time to sit around or resume a game. So, if they actually added a setting that makes the multiplayer better, that would be cool.
Yeah. I've been looking for a game to play with my lady friend.
Oh yeah?
And she's showed interest in the Civ games, and she's got a shitty laptop, not like a gaming PC or anything. And I was like, I wonder if Civ 6 will run, or if I should just do Civ 5 instead.
It looks even more like tablified.
You think? Maybe.
It looks nice.
Like the lowest
I'm not
settings
shitting
might be
on it.
lower than...
Yeah,
Yeah.
It looks more stylized than Civ 5, so
Yeah.
it might run
It
better.
definitely looks more stylized, but I don't know if the graphic settings are actually... I'll have to do some research, but one of those two games, I was thinking maybe that would be fun. But a game that I actually played a little bit with her was, I don't know if I talked about it at all, Monaco.
Monaco?
Yeah, Monaco is like a top-down... I'd almost call it like dual joystick, but there's not a lot of shooting involved. But it's a heist game. It's a co-op heist game, and you go through and you try to collect treasure and avoid guards. And there's like little classes where like one class breaks necks and one class disguises themselves, and stuff like that. And it's a stealth. It's basically a top-down stealth game, multiplayer co-op stealth game, and it's actually really really hard. But it's fun. I actually recommend it because it's got this style to it. The visual style I could take or leave, but there's this piano music that plays through the whole game, and it's interactive, or it's dynamic. I mean, so like you get
I'm
caught,
a sucker for that stuff.
and it speeds up the piano music, and it's like this like freeform kind of jazzy piano music, and it's just that music really. It puts the little cherry on top of that game. Like it makes it so much more fun because it just feels right. You should look up a video of it just like to hear the music real quick. It's by the same composer who did like Journey, that Austin Winter
Really?
guy. He does a lot of soundtracks. I was looking at his Wikipedia page recently, and like he does a lot of soundtracks. But
That's interesting.
apparently that's
okay.
him.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He's good at his job.
Yeah, apparently. So yeah, I think I'm legitimately out of games at that point, though. I don't think I've played anything else.
We can talk about Dark Souls Remastered.
What is there to talk about, though? People
We
are
can just
freaked out
talk
about
about
this.
Dark Souls in general too, but
Just because it's fun to talk about Dark
it
Souls.
always is. But
I went to a VR chat world that was the
Firelink?
whatever, the Firelink Shrine. Yeah. It was like obviously ported straight out of the game too. Like it looked exactly like it, and it even had like the dynamic shadows
That's cool.
moving across the ground and stuff. It was like, holy shit, I can't believe they can do that so easily. There's also one of the Persona 5 cafe
Oh, nice.
with the music playing and
LeBlanc.
everything. Yeah,
That's cool.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of weird stuff like that. I guess you can just directly port stuff over pretty easily because that's what it looks like. It's like this is straight out of the game, including what's his name there with his animation going and everything, like just pulled straight from the game. I guess
I'll have to go there. That'll be cool. But I don't know if I want to get it on Switch or PC. It would be cool on Switch to have a portable Dark Souls, but I would like 60 FPS.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll even get it though. Like I played Dark Souls. Every once in a while, I get the urge to play it again. But
well, I get the urge to play it again consistently enough that I think it's probably worth it for me at least.
Yeah. I think it would be pretty cool to have it on Switch, but I feel like it'd be frustrating because that game requires it requires some interesting controller hand placement and stuff.
Especially if you're trying to
Sprinting
run and look around. Have you ever done that claw grip? I'm gonna say
definitely.
Yeah,
you use your pointer finger to press B.
Exactly right. Where you
I think that'd be very difficult to do on a Switch, especially if you're just holding it in your hands.
Yeah, that would be kind of tight.
It just doesn't seem like it's cool that it's coming out on the Switch, but it doesn't seem like that's the kind of game that I want to play. Like even just Zelda, when I'm doing something that's like difficult on the Switch, like my hands will start cramping up because it doesn't fit right in my hands. It's a little too small.
Now, do you have a Pro controller?
I do. I usually just play holding the tablet though.
Me too. I play it more that way more than any other.
Yeah. I just prefer it that way. But yeah, my hands get a little sore just because I grip it too tight when I'm trying to do something mildly difficult in Zelda. So I can't imagine like trying to fight Ornstein and Smell on the on the Switch.
Mario Kart also, for some reason, I'm not a big fan of playing it in the handheld mode because of how like I'll grip the controls really tight when I'm going around turns and stuff, and I'll get into it. So that doesn't feel great to be. Because the controls, or the Joy-Cons, I guess, they feel kind of loose. Not to the point where I'd say it's a big problem, but I wouldn't want to, like, pick the thing up by the Joy-Con. I would just want to be gentle with it, generally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's perfect for child's hands, which is really what it should be, I guess. But sometimes I long for the days of the first Xbox's Duke controller. They came out with an updated. When I say updated, they came out with the Duke again. It's literally just the same controller, but you can use it on PC and stuff. I don't know why they would though, because the bumpers are so like obviously objectively inferior. I mean, superior. But they kept the white and black buttons, and it's like, well, okay, that kind of ruins it.
The good part about it was the form factor, not certain.
Exactly, the button placement wasn't, and the shape of the buttons was crappy too. Like they have that Skittle shape to them, where like it hurts your finger if you're having to hold down the A button for a while and stuff. So it's like just make the Xbox 360 controller, or the Xbox One controller, because they're the same thing basically, and make it a little bit bigger or more Duke shaped. And I would probably be really interested in that because my hands are just a little bit too big for all of controllers these days. Like I'd say especially the PlayStation controller, but also the Xbox controller, and definitely the Switch. So yeah, I would love to have a big ass controller for my big ass manly hands.
I know that I've played and watched other stuff, but none of it's coming to mind. I guess we could actually talk about Star Wars for a second.
I was about to say. I guess we'll talk about Star Wars, and you can just turn the podcast off if you're sick of hearing about Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since it's come out, but you know, it's not like any opinion is really all that necessary about Star Wars. So get over it.
But people sure do act like it is.
Well, I enjoyed it more than The Force Awakens, I think.
Me too.
I liked basically all the Luke Skywalker stuff. I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings about it, like everyone does, and I'd say the very popular opinion is that the Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren stuff is the strongest part of the movie. Mm-hmm. So that's not saying anything new, but that's what made the movie for me. That's what I really enjoyed. The other stuff was all like more or less take it or leave it. But I didn't hate the things that a lot of people I've kind of not intentionally avoided, but I haven't really seen a lot of the loud opinions about Star Wars on the internet.
Yeah.
I saw Red Letter Media's video on it because of course I did. And I saw some random like Twitter opinions and stuff, but like people apparently are just freaking out about it or were freaking out about it around the release. But I know that a few of the like sticking points that people had, one was the Yoda scene, Yoda's ghost showing up and just having a conversation with Luke and calling lightning down from the sky. I actually really liked that scene a lot. I thought it was great. I completely disagree with Red Letter Media who say that Yoda wasn't acting like Yoda, because like Yoda shows up in episode 5 or whatever, and he's acting crazy as like a test to Luke, and then he gets serious. But I think Yoda's still always a little bit crazy. He was playing up his craziness in that particular scene, but like he doesn't act totally goofy in this one. He's still kind of relatively serious, but you know, he bonks Luke on the head or whatever with his staff and stuff, and that just seems like something Yoda would do in my head. I don't know, but I like that scene a lot. I like the things he was saying, and I like kind of like the meta commentary of Star Wars that permeates the whole film, where it's like, let go of the past, we're moving forward and doing our own future and that kind of thing. And like, I don't think that Disney necessarily shares the same vision that whoever came up with that story does for Star Wars, but especially with the Han Solo movie coming out in just a few months. But yeah, I liked that stuff. I liked, the other thing that people didn't like, the humor, and it was awful. I hated the humor. I don't think I ever laughed. I thought The Force Awakens was very funny, and I thought the humor was like spot on, like exactly how it should be. And I thought this humor was fucking awful. In particular, the first scene of the entire movie is embarrassing and also like actively hurts the image of the Empire being a scary villain. Because like it's important for the Empire to be this dominating force.
Which one are you referring to? What scene?
What's his name? Poe gets on the radio with the Empire General guy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna put you on hold," and all this bullshit.
Right. Okay.
And it's fucking embarrassing and awful. And I wanted to hate the movie. I was like, okay, well, I guess I better prepare myself to just hate the rest of this movie, because I figured there's no way I will like this movie.
That part did seem a little like an Abbott and Costello routine.
It was awful. It felt like an SNL sketch about Star Wars or something. And it makes the Empire look stupid and weak. Where like episode 4, the famous shot, the rebels running, and then the huge Imperial ship dominating the entire frame, because it's like, hey, look, the Empire is this big scary thing, and they get on the ship and they kill everyone, and nobody has any chance against them. This one starts out with the Empire being like, "Oh, I'm being put on hold," and then like someone in the X-wing basically destroying an entire ship and him by himself. And I hate it. I hated that scene. But then the fact that I actually ended up liking the movie after that scene is testament to it doing something right. People also hate the casino thing where they go on the planet with the casino on it, and it feels like a prequel.
Why. It felt fine to me.
I didn't like it. It felt like a prequel. It felt like a prequel scene. Like I thought it was like
filler to me than a bad
scene. It was filler. Exactly. I didn't like actively hate it. I didn't think there was that much to like get worked up about. But I was like, this feels like it could just not be in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
And it gets so much better once they get on and it's very short, but once they actually get on the bad guy's ship and they're trying to like do their little mission, that felt like I liked that part, as short as it was. And I was like, why couldn't they have just done this from the beginning? Like, there's just no need for them to have to go like to this planet and go on this adventure to get this codebreaker guy. Like, couldn't they have just written it so they go straight to the Imperial ship? Whatever.
The movie was like too long, for sure.
It ended, and then it had a whole other fucking huge action scene and everything. Yeah. Although I liked that last scene, but boy, it was like 30 minutes extra where it felt like the movie was leading up to an ending, and then it's like, oh wait, nope, this is not an ending. Actually, the movie's going to keep going for a while, and then it ends. So yeah, the pacing, it's weird because like the stuff that I think The Force Awakens did right, which is like pacing and tone, like the humor and the adventure and all that stuff. I thought The Force Awakens like excelled at that, and this movie completely stumbled with that. But then this movie excelled in ways that The Force Awakens didn't. Like this movie had way better characters as far as like the main characters and the main plot. Like that stuff was so much stronger and so much more unique. And visually, it was a really striking movie where The Force Awakens was kind of just like, it's Star Wars. But
yeah, there were some really outstanding shots. Like in particular, the destroyed ship with like the light speed warp. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that looked great.
Yeah.
Obviously the final battle scene, it was a Hoth homage, I guess, but like it looked great. It was kind of goofy that they had to explicitly say it's salt, so that you knew it was salt, because otherwise it looks like blood or something, and you're confused, I guess. That was stupid. I guess. Like whatever. But yeah, like visually, I thought it was a great looking movie. and it just stumbles throughout the movie constantly. And then you've got the lady doing the thing that you're talking about, that scene where she goes into hyperspeed or whatever and blows up the enemy ships. Like that was that's a weird thing to introduce to the Star Wars universe. Like even in that movie alone,
suicide bombing.
Well, not so much the concept of suicide bombing, but the effectiveness of it. Like, okay, now you've established that a ship can go into hyperspeed and just wipe out an entire fleet. Why didn't they do this to blow up the Death Star? Also, I guess her original plan was to just run away and die, which was going to be a suicide mission anyway. Why did it suddenly come to her that, like, oh shit, I can do this, like, suicide attack? Why wasn't that the plan from the beginning? Because they were losing ships left and right. All the escape shuttles were being destroyed, and then she's like, "Oh, I can actually just turn this thing around and ram them." She had a speech to give,
you fucking idiot.
I guess, but like, I don't understand why that's an epiphany and not just the plan from the beginning. You killed a bunch of people by
give her speech,
running away for no reason. Like, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, that is true. If she just wanted to suicide bomb it and be done with it. She was
on a suicide mission regardless.
50 ships were destroyed.
Knew it was one. Yeah. Hell, they could have saved the 2 other ships that already got destroyed. If they just from the beginning just been like, well, let's just sacrifice one of our ships because we know that we're not going to live this, but this will at least give us a chance to get away. So like, really, even I was thinking that in my head. I was thinking, with no knowledge of or caring at all about, like, okay, what are the physics of Star Wars? Like, how do these ships work and stuff? I was thinking, like, it seems like you could just turn around and, like, ram them or something. Like, you got to be able to do something. And then she finally does it. And I'm like, oh, well, I, as an audience member, thought of this before the character did. And that's never a good idea. That actually, like, really sat me. I just sat, like, you can go on and on about plot holes and how pointless they are. But that one in particular just kind of made me go, like, it just opens up so many, like, things where you're going, like, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do this? And boy, that could have made some of these movies, like, the entire plot of Star Wars could be changed drastically based on this one establishing characteristic of how light speed or hyperspeed or whatever works. It's like, I don't know, whatever. I don't care about, like, the science of Star Wars, but it's just a weird thing to suddenly
Star
pull
Wars
out of
never really pushed you too hard to make you think about it, but
no, it always avoids the subject. Exactly. Like the Death Star. Like, how's the Death Star get around? How fast does it move? It has to get around the orbit to blow up the Rebel base in Episode 4. Like, why? How did it get there to begin with? Wasn't it moving super fast? Why does it have to get around the orbit? Why does it take forever? You can think about that stuff as long as you want, but it just kind of avoids the subject. But then suddenly this one's just like, well, now you can just use it as a weapon. You can just do this. And it's like, okay, whoa, that's interesting. That changes things.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, really, it doesn't matter, but still, like, it bothered me. It bothered me in a way that none of the other weird stuff in Star Wars bothers me. But
I'm just mostly unfazed by the movie entirely, now that I think about it.
It made me realize how little I care about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've realized that I go to those movies, like, from an academic perspective of, like, I just want to see.
Oh my!
Well, I mean, it's true. I just want to see what they're doing with it.
I watch it for the same reason I watch the Super Bowl. It's not because I'm super into football. It's because it's a big thing going on that people are watching.
Maybe, yeah. That's what I mean, though. Like, that's academic, right?
Well, I guess, but
you're going to it because you're interested in it from, like, a perspective of, like, just wanting to see what they're doing with it, and being able to be a part of the zeitgeist or whatever.
Studying it, or
well, neither am I. But all right, whatever. Semantics. But point is, you're not going because you just love Star Wars and you gotta see the new Star Wars.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why
Solo
most people probably go. It's the new
Han
Star Wars.
Solo.
Star Wars is big.
Yeah. That Han Solo, which is weird, like, that kind of also makes me think, like, they play it so safe with these movies, and that's a big criticism of the movies. Although you can argue that, like, some of them don't play it safe and fail, but especially The Force Awakens, but this one too, like, in some ways is kind of safe. And it's like, you've got a Star Wars movie. Why do you have to Like, you don't need to bring back all these old characters. You don't need to make a Han Solo movie because it's Star Wars. You can make it about anything and people will go see it. Why are you having to like draw out the Han Solo card and play the prequels and all that? Like, I don't know. It just seems so easy and pointless. But that Han Solo movie has no trailers. I think it has like one poster, and it comes out in like a few months.
Great.
And really apparently there's rumors that they're like reshooting it right now. So good luck to the Han Solo movie. We'll see how that goes.
Didn't they like lose a bunch of directors too through this whole process?
I think they've changed personnel.
Yeah.
They've reshot stuff. I think they had to bring in an acting coach.
Nice.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Hunter asks, either of you boys making a 2017 in video games video? I am. How about you, Skippy?
I caught the flu at a really... This is my excuse. I caught the flu at a really, really inopportune time, which is basically the reason it's been so long since we've had the last podcast. I lost my voice completely. I felt like shit for a while. My voice is okay now, but I still got a cough. The idea of even just recording the commentary for that stuff is like not a good feeling for me right now. I'm thinking I might skip 2017 because another thing was like I was thinking about it and I was like, what do I have to say about video games in 2017? And like,
it was all good.
Nier Automata. I'd love to talk about Nier Automata and how much I love it, and I'd love to talk about PUBG and how much I hate it. And other than that, I don't have like anything to say.
You could just do that.
I thought about it. I did think about it. I'll ruin, if I do make a video, I'll ruin what it probably is, which would be like a few minutes of ranting about PUBG and how terrible it is, and then a quick mention of Nier Automata and how great it is, and then that's it. So maybe I'll still do that because I can knock that out real quick and be lazy and upload my one YouTube video for 2018. I don't know. That still sounds like more effort than I want to go through. I know like people do really like those videos, and I like them too. I like making them, or I don't like making them, but I like having made them. Like I like looking at them as a finished product and being like, oh yeah, that's a good thing to have. I like it. But boy, if I didn't get the flu, I probably would. Now I'm kind of just on the fence. But it gives me hope that you haven't released yours yet, at least.
Yeah, I've just been lazy about it, but I am making it.
And so it's like, so at least someone else is like super far behind. So maybe I can just squeeze mine out. But yeah, the motivation has not been there.
I see the Oscars are in March. Okay, so we got plenty of time.
Oh sure, yeah, you're right. Maybe I can push it all the way back to March and then slip in a joke about the Oscars being in March so that I can get away with it.
Great.
Or maybe I'll just wait till the end of this year,
2019,
and just be like, I'm going to do a
Stone
2017
recap
video, and then 2 days later I'm going to release a 2018 video, and that would be that.
Good plan.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to do that plan.
I feel guilty for not having worked on it at all, so I've probably got to do something or I'm going to hate myself.
Yeah, man, do something. All right. Do we have anything else to talk about? I feel like I've been playing nothing. I've been just watching an embarrassing amount of anime, to be honest. I've watched
that is embarrassing.
Hundreds of episodes of JoJo's.
I've just been playing an embarrassing amount of Rainbow Six Siege at the expense of any other game in my library. Like that's my new CS:GO right now. Like it's just something that I like to play with some friends, and I'm not as good at it as I am with CS:GO, so I get really frustrated. But yeah, it's still fun. It's just a really neat game. Like, there's no other game like Siege, so I like it at least from at that level. But it's better than PUBG. I played PUBG 1.0 for the first time like 2 days ago.
Was it a life-changing experience? Game-changing?
No, I was like, oh, this is still just a broken piece of shit mess of a game. It's just got a new map now. Also, the new map doesn't look as good as I would want it to look, especially after people talk about it looking a lot better. It does look better than the other one, which looks terrible, but it still looks bad. There's like half the buildings in the map. They've added fire escapes to all the buildings because like they want you to be able to go everywhere. which is admirable. Like, good for them for trying to introduce verticality and make their map very explorable and stuff. Well, I guess they just use the same asset for all the fire escapes or something. I don't know that much about game development, but there's some kind of laziness involved here, because what happens is that the bottom of the fire escape, the stairs just go straight into the ground, and the railing next to the stairs goes straight into the ground.
Nice.
And it looks terrible, and it's all over the map. And it's like, I can't stop thinking about how lazy it is. Just like, it looks bad. It looks terrible, and it's obvious that they just don't want to make an asset that fits their game. I don't know, man. I just hate PUBG with such a passion.
They got so popular relative to their scale that they just have not been able to make a game that's even like up to.
I went in and I was
level popular.
I was playing squads, and I was playing with Flimsy, and he was like, "Well, the game, they actually eliminated the lag." And I was like, "Well, I don't believe that, because that game's laggy as fuck, and I don't think they could have fixed that in this amount of time." He's like, "No, they fixed it." And so I go in, I parachute down, and I'm trying to pick up a gun and ammo off of the roof of a building, and it's like, you tap F to pick stuff up, and your character sits there and goes, but nothing gets picked up, and you just have to sit there tapping F until you pick up all the stuff. And I'm like, nope, this is still a laggy piece of shit. And then I fight with someone, and like they're all jerky around and stuff, and I'm like, no, this hasn't changed at all. He goes, oh no, I just meant the frame rate is better, not the actual lag. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the frame rate's never been a problem for me, because at least I've got a beast of a computer that can play it. But nope, the lag is still just as bad as it's ever been with that piece of shit game. So that hasn't changed at all. And boy, it's just a fucking terrible game.
Game of the year. That's been a lot of game of the years for 2017.
Yes, it has been.
I don't
it's
understand
been
that.
Embarrassing.
I
understand it. I understand the logic. It's a huge game. It caused this massive stir. You can't ignore that.
It's like Flappy Bird was popular.
People have a shit ton of fun with it. Yeah, you're right. But people had a shit ton of fun with it. But some people call it groundbreaking. It doesn't do really anything that the other fucking Battle Royale games that the same guy has been making for years have done. Like, in fact, it plays almost exactly the same way as the original Battle Royale mod from Arma 3 played. To the point where like people were talking about how much PUBG feels and looks like Arma 3, and they're like, it's like, I almost feel like they took code from Arma 3. I'm not accusing them of that. I don't think they did, but like they clearly used Arma 3 as like an inspiration for it. So it's like, it doesn't do anything new. It just happened to fucking hit it big and become popular. But like those games have been around for a while, and they haven't changed much, and it's a piece of shit. And like the thing that drives me wild is that some people just like flat out disagree that it's bad, it's laggy. Like they're like, no, I don't have any problems with it. I don't have lag. It's like, what? Are you playing the same game? Are you insane? Do you play any other games to set as a baseline of like, what? It's terrible. It's really bad. And like you can look at like tests of server latency and stuff. People have done like tests on it, and it's like 3 or 4 times worse than the average of like Overwatch, CS:GO, Rainbow Six, all that stuff. It's way worse. And Fortnite, for example, actually is not too laggy or anything.
Fortnite is comparatively polished.
Yes, Fortnite's just a great game to look at in comparison and go like, no, this is doing largely the same stuff. Like the arguments that, oh well, there's 100 people in a server, so of course it's laggy, kind of falls apart when Fortnite has 100 people in a server and it doesn't feel laggy at all. Or like Battlefield. Battlefield's been doing 64 players for a long ass time, and it feels great. Like it feels just as good as like Call of Duty or something. Like it feels very smooth. You don't have lag problems with Battlefield the same way you do with PUBG, and so they figured it out. Well, they've got a lot more money. Well, not really. Not now. They've got a shit ton of money now, but they've already got your money, so why would they update the game?
Yeah, they'll just make something else, so that's what they should do.
Yeah, they will. If they're smart, you're right. But boy, I did sell a crate that I got for almost $5.
You can sell PUBG items?
Yeah, on Steam Marketplace, and people pay some about China. I don't know. I guess the Chinese are really into the cosmetics, and that's why you've got all these Chinese hackers hacking the game because they're trying to like farm cosmetic stuff. But you sell the loot crates, and they sell for like literally like $5. Flimsy told me he's made a profit on PUBG.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So at least there's that, I guess. Yeah, it pisses me off though.
That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know the exact extent of the loot crate item system, but I had no idea it was connected with the Steam economy.
Yeah, it is. They started selling those in early access, by the way, and they explicitly said they would not sell cosmetics in early access, but then they did it anyway.
Oops.
So
whoopsie.
There you go.
All right. I don't have anything else to talk about, to be honest.
I guess I don't either. I watched the first episode of Wormwood.
What's that?
It's on Netflix. It's an Errol Morris 6-episode miniseries, documentary miniseries, docudrama. It combines real interviews with kind of like a reenactment, like drama scenes, and it's about MK Ultra. It's about the CIA drugging people, and this guy got drugged and then a week later jumped out of a hotel window, and the government apologized for it like 20 years later.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so it goes into like this investigative kind of look as to what happened and that kind of stuff. So it seems really interesting, and I like Errol Morris a lot. Like I think he's a really good documentary maker, and so it's
and it's on Netflix.
I'm looking forward to it. It's on Netflix. I watched the first episode. It has the reenactments are really interesting because they're not. I was expecting your standard drama documentary reenactments where it's like kind of boring, I guess, but like it's reenacting this guy's LSD trip. It's all conjecture, I guess. Like there's no record of what he was actually experiencing, but it's just like, hey, here's what his LSD trip might have been like while he's in this cabin with a bunch of other CIA people, and they secretly lace his water with LSD, and he like wanders around the cabin having a trip, and it's really surreal and kind of scary, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool, and I've heard good things about the rest of the series, so yeah.
I was actually looking for something to put on in the background while I did some Persona 3 grinding, so
could be a good one. Could be.
Gang, thanks for watching this episode of Push to Shout. We'll be back again another time.
Bye.
Good night.